Hello, dear listener, and welcome to another episode of Talking to Introverts with myself, Sami Blackford, and my co-host, who will introduce herself in a moment. But first, let me tell you that, yes, as I say, my name is Sami, and I am a brand and marketing coach for introverted women in business, because we can market ourselves even as introverts without doing any dancing on TikTok or any Instagram lives or any of that stuff that makes you run for the hills and want to hide under your duvet. It's possible, people, it's possible. And I'm here to help you do it. So, as I said, my co-host and co-introvert is, drumroll please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Denise Oliver. And yes, I am an introvert, but it doesn't mean I can't speak. Some people think introverts say nothing. No, I can be very chatty until I'm not. And I am a coach and I particularly work with women. I have this very strong purpose, drive, quest that everyone should find her unique strengths and empowerment. And as introverts, we tend to keep that to ourselves. We tend to hold it on the inside. I have a specialist interest in helping women who've experienced loss, whether that's loss of a person or a pet, or it's loss in some way in life. So, loss in relationships with jobs, businesses, finances, you name it. I can help you with any death or non-death type loss. I can help you find your confidence again. I can help you find your way in the world, and specifically as an introvert, because that's what I am and it's what I've experienced. So I have knowledge and experience of all of that. My business name is Diva Empowerment.
And just to say, all links for my business and Denise's business will be in the video description below. So check them out if you're interested in that. And it's interesting you say, Denise, that, as an introvert, we can be chatty. Doesn't mean we're quiet and retiring types, because that's what we're talking about today. The label of introvert. I feel like this is going to be a loaded, loaded topic, because there's obviously our personal experience of being an introvert. There's what mass media and society think introverts are. And then, there's everybody else who identifies as an introvert. They have their own personal experience as well. So Denise, kick us off. Go on, I'm just putting the ball in your your court there. Let's approach this huge topic,
It is a
and
big
you can
topic.
start.
Yeah, no, it really is a big topic. The label of introvert, and I think for many years I didn't know that's what I was. And so what I was attempting to do was fake it. This whole thing of fake it till you make it, be the chattiest person in the room. Oh my God, it's exhausting. And what I didn't recognize was I wasn't an extrovert. I wasn't the life and soul of the party. It was much easier for me if I was stood in a corner with one person to chat to, much
Mm.
easier on my energy. Didn't understand that. Didn't understand that that was actually a gift, that somebody who needed to offload something, if they cornered me, I was all ears. And I didn't say very much. And yet I thought that I had to be way more outgoing, dancing all the time, all of that, and didn't understand why my energy was so drained by the end of it all. And I know when I was much younger, in my 20s, in order to be able to keep up with my way more extrovert friends, let's give her a mention, my friend Sarah, all one word, over in somewhere out Papua New Guinea way now. Um, I actually drank alcohol in order to keep going, and then felt absolutely awful the next day with mega hangovers and not wanting to be around anyone. Whereas she was like life and soul of the party, still going. And I wanted to be more like her because I thought that's how we were supposed to be.
Mm.
So yeah, the label of introvert, it is one of those things that we can be labeled as too quiet, What else are we labelled as?
I
Quiet's
remember,
one of the
I
things, though, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's actually quite a strength.
quiet, shy. I remember when I was younger, so like late teens, early 20s, I'm going to say, many years ago now. Um, I remember that I had a nickname about among a certain group of people as the Ice Queen because apparently I was really cold and unfeeling, and it's like I'm just quiet. I'm just, when I have something to say, I will say it, but I don't need to talk for the sake of talking. Like I'm happy to just, there's a conversation going on around me and I'll just listen. It's like, okay. Like,
Yeah, and I think sometimes, and I do understand why people would interpret the behavior like that as
mm,
being aloof and cold, because there are times when I know I'm listening, but my face doesn't change. I'm not smiling all the time. I'm really concentrating. And it can come across as a little bit intimidating to people. And I've been accused of like, oof, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing, I'm fine. And it's just like I have just been listening so intently that and I'm not making eye contact or anything. I'm just sitting there. And I've often been accused of looking like I'm really bored. Are you
mm,
bored? Like, no, why would you think that? And it's just and it's just that I think in a more extrovert world, it's like we have to be like switched on and really animated all
mm.
the time. I can't do that.
No, I know, like I know I've said to you a few times, I can see the cogs are working. What's going on inside that mind?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like we've discussed before, and we'll probably never stop discussing when it comes to extroverts and introverts. Extroverts talk to think, whereas like introverts, we need to think before we talk.
yeah.
And that, like, when you're in a conversation and somebody, raises a point or asks a question or something, and you're there like thinking about it, and other people are like jumping in. It's like, okay, now I formed my thoughts on this. Like, I can't just give you a, off the, quick as a flash response to that. It's like, no, I need to think about this. Um, so yeah, so some other let's talk about again like how society sees introverts. So poor conversationalists, I think we've proved that one wrong. What number? We're on our 12th episode of our podcast. I think we've proved that one wrong. Um, that introverts are loners, that we're depressed, um, that we don't have many friends. Like
We have nothing to contribute because we don't speak up, in a group setting. It's
mm,
not true. You just don't give us time.
I remember my mum used to be on a lot of community committees. Say that three times fast.
I'm going to say I
Um,
like that. Community committees, community committees. You've got to work your mouth with that one.
and there was some I can't remember what the meeting was for, but there was a special kind of guest contributor to the meeting who was deaf and had his use sign language had his like sign language translator. I don't know what you call them. I'm going to use the word translator with him. And the meeting was going on, and somebody had posed a question or a point, and this man had to have the conversation translated into sign language. He had to think about it and then had to sign his response, and then that had to be translated back into English. Um, and it's kind of that's how I feel like sometimes as an introvert in a conversation, because quite often, like from what my mum was saying of this meeting, and I just remember this distinctly, like while all of this was going on for him, the meeting carried on, and the translator kept saying, "No, you have to wait. You have to stop and wait for," I can't remember what his name was, this man to kind of form his response and, give it to the meeting. And I feel quite like that sometimes as an introvert. It's like, no, you need to wait. Just hold on while I kind of process what's going on. I think the majority, let's just address the elephant in the room, the majority of societal impressions and um, perceptions of introverts are generally on the more negative side.
I would
I
agree.
mean, and I mean, like the whole thing of like not many friends, a loner, depressed, poor conversationalist. I mean, that's leading to, the sorts of people that you'd think might become serial killers. Let's be honest. It's like we're not. I mean, I'm not saying all introverts are not those things as well, but it's not a predisposition of being an introvert.
I think I'd like to dispel the whole thing of introverts being shy as well. I think there's this big misconception that because we're quiet, that equals being shy, and
Mm,
it's not the case. Um, Extroverts can be very shy
mm,
and still be extroverts, still be chatty, still have a need to be around people. Um, but as an introvert, just because we're quiet, just because we listen, doesn't equal shyness. I
yeah.
also think that there are stages in our lives where shyness is the norm. So, teenagers into our 20s, as we're learning more of the, I'm going to call them emotional skills.
Mm,
And so, someone sort of laughs at us because we've attempted to step into something, and it just suddenly puts you on your guard. You can be introvert, extrovert, somewhere in between, and
mm,
you will experience a shyness and blush easily, that sort of thing. Not all introverts are shy. Not all extroverts aren't shy. So
mm.
that's just a human thing. It's not. It can't be put under a label. And I've
Yeah,
had moments of shyness. I know you've experienced shyness. But I'm not. I haven't been shy in all areas of my life. I've shied away from situations that haven't been pleasant.
I
That
think
sort of thing.
that's different to shyness, though, isn't it? I think, and yeah, I think like shyness and lack of confidence, like
Yeah,
go hand in hand with being an introvert, apparently. Um,
yeah,
Not true. I mean, I have had, like you say, I've had both of those in my life. I've been shy in my life. I've had low confidence in my life. And I don't see myself as having either of those traits anymore, and yet I'm still an introvert.
yeah,
Um, and I think what you say about like shying away from certain situations or places or whatever is different from being shy, isn't it? It's like I think shying away from is like, oh no, I know that's not for me.
trying to think, what other labels do we get? I think it surprises people when they get into conversation with someone who is naturally quiet and then find they can't shut them up. It's like, didn't think you spoke. I was like, well, yeah, no, I can speak. No, it does happen. Um, I just think it's just misunderstood. I really do. And we do live in a very extrovert world. It's not just like in this country, or I was saying to you earlier that there's something about being around Americans. And for me, I grew up thinking every American was loud. Every single one of them was loud. And how many have I met in my life? Not many. And so this misconceptions just occur. And I've yet to meet a quiet American. I just haven't come across one. And they do seem to always like be out there and doing. And I've met them where did a cruise once, and there was a lot of Americans because it was an American cruise ship, and they're out there like making friends with everyone that they meet. Or where are you from? And I don't know whether I have met introverted Americans who are just interested in the history of where people are from because they'll have their history background, that sort of thing. I never quite got to the bottom of it, but they were the ones that were doing everything, and I mean
Mm.
everything. It's like, do you not get tired? and they're like, oh, we just ignore it, we don't listen, we've got to get to XYZ places while we're here in Europe, because once we get home we won't be doing any of that. And it's like, if I went to America, would I cram as many places into my itinerary as possible? And I know the answer to that has to be no, because I
Mm.
just physically couldn't do it. As an introvert, I need time to recharge, and talking to people and rushing around and being in environments that are noisy or have been expected to see a lot of things in a day is overstimulation. It's just too much for me. And it's almost like that's noise in itself. That's like just too much coming at
Mm.
me all at once. And it's like, that's not shyness, wanting to spend time on my own. That's essential.
Yeah,
Just is essential for me, living my life.
yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, like, I was just thinking about the story you were telling before we started recording about the lady with the surprise birthday party.
Yeah.
And it's like you were just saying, I know I need time on my own. I know I need my own space, away from other people to, like you say, recharge my batteries and be able to then go and be the chatty introvert and all of that kind of stuff, which I love conversation, as you know, we've started a podcast, obviously. We like conversation. Um, and being with people and all of that kind of stuff, but in small groups and or like one on one and all of that kind of stuff. And I was just thinking, because I think the day after this episode goes out, I turn 40. If anybody throws me a surprise party, there will be trouble. I do not want one. Um, because that would just be like, A, I wouldn't have had time to prepare for it. Like, I need to know what's going on, who's going to be there, all, like where, not that where, if I'm going somewhere, where I'm going to park, what's the route to get there, all of that kind of stuff. I like to know what to expect in situations. And also being the center of attention like that with the large group of people. No, thank you. Um, but then there's also that, like, I know that I need time on my own space and all of that kind of stuff. There's also that there's a tipping point, isn't there, where that can kind of become I call it like I'm hermiting. And then that gets a point where it's like, oh, you gotta stop this now. This is gonna go like too much time on my own, where you then kind of, I can't think how to describe it, as in, Denise, find some words for me.
I actually have a question as well. So we'll come back to hermiting and that solitude thing, because I get that. I also get that there's a need to shrug that comfort blanket off and get out in the world as well.
Mm,
But just going back to surprise birthday parties, and you don't want one. Just putting it out there, she doesn't want one. And it's almost that, if someone throws her a surprise birthday party, she will kill you. She will. Um, is that, what are you like with like opening presents in front of people when they've bought you something, and their expectations of how you're going to exclaim and thank you and be all over them? I hate opening presents in front of people. What are you like?
yeah, there's that whole like being put on the spot again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think by now, like this point in my life, people know that I'm not an exclaimer. Like, I'm a fairly like understated kind of, you know, giving response to these sorts of things. Um, but I do always have a facial expression prepared. And like a oh, isn't that lovely kind of thing prepared. Um, but I think generally by this point, I think like my family and my close friends know me well enough to kind of give suitable gifts. Shall I put it that way?
Yeah, I really struggle. I don't like surprise gifts. It's not okay for me because I honestly go very inner, introvert, and I have to think about them. It's like, and it's not that I want to be like that. I'd love to exclaim and, jump for joy over absolutely everything. My introvert doesn't do that. I go inward and I'm like, oh, do I like this? What is this
Mm,
for? What have I got this for? Why has somebody gone off the list? I gave a list. Why are they not sticking to the list? And all of that goes on in my head. I've had some great surprise gifts and I've genuinely really enjoyed them. I might not have shown it on my face though. So,
yeah.
there's the whole thing of that, of actually, having been called a cold fish because I don't exclaim and light up like a firework. It's like, no, I'm just processing. Allow me to process what it is that's for some reason going on inside me. And once I've got the words, I'll come back to you. Can we move on to someone else? Because someone else open a present now, especially if it's Christmas morning, and it's just like, no, I do like gifts. Don't get me wrong. I love a gift. Buy me
Mm,
chocolate, nice chocolate, happy as Larry. Buy me something like really weird, quirky, off the wall that I've never even considered I need in my life. And I have to think about it
yeah.
because it's not on my list. It's the same with my husband's way more extrovert than me. It's the same with choosing a holiday. At the end of the day, I always say to him, you decide. I'll figure it out as I go along. But you need a different sort of holiday to me. You
Mm,
decide. And he just thinks that I'm not interested in what he wants to do. No, I am. I just need to know what you want to do. I need to know where I'm going. I need to know how to pack and have lead time into doing all of that. And then I'm all right. Then I'm okay. I can go
mm.
anywhere, but give me the lead time. And he
I
sometimes
think
just
that's
wants to go and do something spontaneous. I'm like, spontaneous. Okay.
yeah. I think that's it, isn't it? It's the lead time. Like, give me time to kind of reflect on it and all of that kind of stuff. 'Cause, a couple of months ago, my partner bought me a waterproof jacket thing. I'd been looking for one for a while, like a really lightweight one that would be waterproof enough, but also I could like keep it in my backpack while we were out walking or whatever in case I needed it. And I only had like quite a bulky one that didn't really fit in my bag. So anyway, I'd been looking for this thing and looking all over the place, and he'd been sending me links on the internet. It's like, how about this one? How about that one? And in the end, he just bought me one. And like he turned up one evening, we were going out somewhere, and he's like, "Oh, I've got a present for you." I'm like, okay. And like I just start getting like really wary. I'm like, what is it? Because the whole surprises thing. Um, and then he gave me this thing, this jacket, and I was just very quiet and like thinking about it later, it's like I wasn't really very appreciative of that. But it wasn't like that I didn't appreciate it. It was like I had to process it. Like the first of all, like he's done this and I've not given him the okay for this. It's like not sure about this. But actually it's a really nice jacket and really like does what I wanted it to do and all of that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, then like later I had to go back because we went out whatever we were doing that evening, and then as I was going to bed and I was thinking about it, it's like I had to send him a message like I really appreciate this. Like it just I had to think about it. I had to, reflect on it and was it what I wanted? Was it, was the color okay? Was like this, that, and the other. Um, so yeah, it's interesting that you describe it like that.
Yeah, no, I'm not I don't generally squeal with excitement. It does happen occasionally. It does leave me. Something escapes from me. But on the whole, I have to process things. And I'm convinced that's part of being an introvert. That's what we do.
Mm,
And we do it quietly. We're not shriekers, we're not gonna scream and shout and jump up and down in delight. We're going to sit quietly in delight. And
Mm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So get on board, everybody else. Come on. So let's go back to hermiting.
Yes.
Have you got your
Yes.
words yet? Have you worked out what you were trying to say?
I think it's like that whole thing of it gets to the point where you're using the I'm an introvert as an excuse, as in I don't have to be out there, I can live by my worthiness of being an introvert and I need my time alone. And there is that tipping point where it comes into hermiting and hiding.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it can be used as an excuse. I think until I found the book by Susan Cain, Quiet, which has been out for a few years now. Highly recommend it if you're sitting on the fence as to whether you might be introvert or extrovert. Her work is research based. It's not just her chatting about being an introvert. She's done a lot of work. I think it took her 10 years to write the book. And it's the work. It's just the work. Just like Carol Dweck it's her work on mindset that everyone quotes now. It's her work. Um, and it was for a long, long time. I didn't understand being an introvert fully. I just didn't get it. And I think there were times looking back, that I I not only had to make excuses to other people for finding time to spend on my own, I would use spending time on my own as an excuse to just not get involved. And it's a different thing, isn't it? So now that I do understand it more, and I understand for me it is about energy and where I spend my energy, let alone how much time it is, because I can be around some people for a very short amount of time and feel exhausted. I can be around other people for much, much longer and not feel so energy drained. It's just very interesting what happens. And it was like recently I was in Manchester, and I went into one of the stores on Market Street, and I'm going to name it Uniglow, and it was loud. Oh my God, it was so loud. And I was looking for something very specific. Felt pretty sure I'd find it in there. I did. And I had to just check in with myself about what was going on with my body. There was a lot of people, a lot of noise, very frenetic. And it was like, oh. And in the past, I would have just turned around and walked out, because I would know that I would have felt almost like on the verge of tears, trying to find what I wanted and working out how to pay, where to pay, blah, blah, blah. I found what I wanted very quickly. I went to queue, and the pay desks are in a corner of the store. And I just could feel the creeping sensation of feeling trapped in this store, in this queue. And it was just like, and it's just like, it's okay, you're just going to wait and pay. But I never used to have that language until, really only the last 10, 15 years. And I would positively feel like I was going to have an anxiety attack in a store like that. I didn't have an anxiety attack. I got to chat with a very lovely assistant and work out how to use Uniglow's quite incredible system of you just drop your clothes into this hole, and everything gets somehow scanned, and you get told how much you need to pay. And it's like, it's very clever. And then I went to another store, which was like super quiet, and I had a lovely walk through it all, and just, I think I touched every piece of clothing in there. Oh, this is so calming, like being in a library, trying to pick a book. No, not that one. I'll put that one back. And bought myself a very nice top. Thank you very much. Thank you, please. Because I just took my time in that one, which was COS. I love COS, by the way, COS, COS. And yeah, the difference between the two shops and the atmosphere and the tranquility of one compared to the frenetic nature of the other. It's like, I'm going to have to go back on a Monday morning when there's nobody around, because a Sunday in Manchester is just like, oh my God, where all these people come from? What are they doing here? And I could have felt really overwhelmed, well and truly, except I know how to talk to myself now. I understand that introvert nature of finding all that noise so overstimulating and overwhelming.
Mm.
So yes, I think I've got another one for you, another type of label that people, please stop this. Eye contact.
Mm.
You know, making eye contact. I can really struggle with making eye contact with people, especially if I don't know them, because my brain goes into overstimulation of what it can see and what it can hear. So I often have to look away. And not being able to make eye contact and hold eye contact is seen as a bad thing in
That's when you're
society.
getting into that like loner, depressed serial killer in waiting type. Like, she doesn't make eye
Exactly.
contact, she's going that way.
Yeah, like it's wrong. And actually it's just processing. I
Mm.
I often have to just like stare off into the distance so that I can keep my thoughts on track.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with the other person. It's what's going on for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and people don't like that. And I it's not, for me, it's not a wrong thing because it's just part of my introvert nature. In order to focus my thoughts, I have to look away from you,
Mm.
what's going on for you, what your face looks like, what's the colour of her eyes, look at her hair, isn't that lovely? Oh, she got another wrinkle, and it's just like, oh gosh, no, my brain's taking me in a direction that isn't helping my thought process. So
Yeah.
I'll just look at something neutral rather than a face that, well, sometimes faces don't change very much, do they? Especially introvert faces, they just look at you because they're taking in the information as well. And it can be off-putting to have a face that is so intently trained on you that yeah, that's overwhelming in a stimulatory type of way. Yeah, aren't we complex?
Yeah. And I agree, I'm doing it now as I'm talking. I'm looking out the window. We're like on Zoom.
Yeah,
So, it's not like we're in the same room and still I have to look away to think and I'm
yeah,
looking out the window. Um, and I have found that like if I'm talking, like you say, to kind of process my thoughts and keep them on track and all of that kind of stuff, doesn't always keep them on track, let's be honest. Um, I can't look at the person I'm talking to. I have to look away, like you were just saying. And also, if somebody else is talking, um, more so when I'm, in the same room as them, I again still can't make eye contact. I have to watch their mouth because somehow my brain takes in what they're saying better if I can see it coming out of their
yeah,
mouth, like see their lips move and stuff. So like I've tried to like when somebody's talking to me, like, okay, just keep eye contact, keep eye contact. And then also it kind of gets like, when you have the staring competition, like keep eye contact, keep eye contact. And it's like, don't blink, don't blink. And it just gets like really weird.
yeah. Yeah, and you know that because there's all this thing about eye contact that gets floated around that if you're not making eye contact, you're so wrong.
Mm,
And it's not. Stop judging us. It's just the way we are. And I just want to bring up that we have networking for introverted women in business. And part of what we do in that networking, enrichment networking, is that we offer colouring in so that this eye contact thing doesn't have to be an issue. Just look at your colouring in. Just get a pen, start colouring in a mandala, find your calmness within. And the thing about that is we can still listen, can't we, while we're doing that
mm,
as introverts? It's not a bad thing. And yet it is vilified in a more extrovert world that eye
yeah.
contact isn't being made, isn't being held. Oh my God, you're colouring in. How can
Not
you
paying
focus?
attention.
You're not paying attention, you're doing something else. No, actually, that can help us.
Mm,
It can bring that quietness to the inner side of us that I think there's an awful lot of extroverts wouldn't understand. And
yeah.
it's not to say extroverts don't need quiet time, don't want to spend time on their own. They just have more of a need, and their energy is more charged when they're with people. Unlike us, and it can be the opposite. We are drained by being around people, and it's not a right or a wrong. It's the way it works. That's just the way it is.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
And I think the thing is, like, on that point, is like You can't flip the switch. You can for
Mm.
a time. You can like fake being an extrovert if you're an introvert or vice versa, but it's actually like genetic that, we're either introvert or extrovert or wherever you are on that scale. And like I've had phases in my life where I have tried to be the extrovert and tried to keep it going. And God, it's exhausting. Like you can do it for a time, I've found, but then the whole thing of like that there's so much burnout going on in like the business world at the moment and so much talk about that. I think, and like this is purely my idea of it, not done any research whatsoever on it. I think a lot of that will be introverts trying to be extroverts in the online business world and realize that they can only sustain it for so long. And then it leads to exhaustion, burnout, and that's when you get more into that. Well, from my experience, where I need to go into that hermit mode, it's like, no, I just want to be in here. I need to recharge. I need to kind of find my way back to who I am and how I operate, um, before I can then go back out again. So then talking about being a hermit again, let's discuss the invisibility cloak, shall we?
Go
Let's
on
just
then.
put that one out there. Um, so like I was saying about like the whole using the introvert label as an excuse to hide. When you're running a business, not that useful.
No.
And like there's a whole thing of there's a lot of talk in business, especially for women. Don't know about men so much, but especially for women because that's kind of like the circles that I work in. Um, the whole thing of like we play small, we keep ourselves small, we keep our businesses small, and all of that kind of stuff. And like there's so much conditioning stuff that we could go into about that. A topic for another conversation, perhaps. Um, so not so much about like the reasons why we do this, but a lot of us do that. And I know we've had this conversation previously, and I know from my own experience, like I have used the label of introvert for that reason. And like not consciously, obviously. It's not like, oh, I'm going to keep my business really small because I don't want to be successful and all that kind of stuff. But unconsciously, like the whole like hidden limited beliefs, hidden fears, whatever you want to call them, there's all of that going on. And I think our minds, and you will know this, be able to talk about this in more detail than I can, our brains are designed to keep us in our comfort zone and all of that kind of stuff. So they will find the reason and justification, aka excuses, to keep us there. And being an introvert has been one for me, and is still one. Like I haven't, completely solved that yet. Um, so yes, the invisibility cloak.
Yeah, yeah, talking about the brain. Yes, I love to talk about the brain. That the brain has a negativity bias, 3 times more negative than positive. And the more you talk to yourself in a negative way, the more you align with negative thoughts that become fears that aren't actually real and true, the more negativity there will be in your world. So the whole movement towards gratitude journals and jars and being thankful for things and appreciating things, I don't think has ever fully been explained from the point of view of your brain and how you can start to switch that negativity bias. It'll never go away. That's how you're programmed. It's part of your amygdala, which is the it's got many other names. Amygdala is the actual medical term for the part of the brain. It's the word comes from the Greek for almond, so that's how big it is. But oh my golly, is it powerful? Because it's something that we've always had through all the years we've been human on the planet, came from the reptiles. So it's often referred to as reptilian brain, prehistoric brain, primal brain, old brain. It has all of those nicknames. And your amygdala is all about keeping you safe. Your amygdala doesn't know how to do anything else. It's keeping you safe. So if you find yourself having these constant negative recurring thoughts, it's coming from your amygdala, and you can take a certain amount of control over that. And so every time you hear a negative thought, the thing is to just thank your amygdala for flagging something up. And actually, you're safe. You're okay. Survival is what it is. You know, I could be sat in a room, we're talking about being introverted, and you get a sense of that the outside world isn't a safe place. And so, as an introvert, hermiting, solitude comes easily. Oh, that's all right then. I'll just stay in my comfort zone here. And yet, as women in business, as people on the planet, actually spending all our time in solitude as a hermit doesn't actually do us any good. We do need to socialize. We do need to have time away from ourselves and our own brains and how they are interpreting where we are in the world. And we do need to get out and see what's going on out there. And it is important to remember we are part of nature, and that unlike prehistoric times, we're not being stalked as prey for dinosaurs, although it can still feel like that because that's the role of our amygdala, to keep us safe, to be aware of danger. And there's very few natural dangers that we experience. And being an introvert isn't a danger. It just is what it is. Dangers are natural dangers, are things like heights, fear of the dark. They will always be with us. And then once I think there's an understanding of that and how we can use gratitude and appreciation to bring about more positive brain thoughts and a more positive physical neuroplasticity in the brain, the calmer we can be. And as introverts, the more we can look at, well, how long have I spent on my own? Have I spent enough time to recharge my energy? And now, am I just languishing in this? Or is it time to get outside and go and meet people? And it's just, you have to work it out for yourself. How much time is too much time with people? And then how much time do you need for a little bit of recuperation? And I've done it, and it wasn't conscious. I've hidden. I've been invisible. I've not wanted to smile at people in the street. And I know that the challenge of that is so much easier now than it's ever been, because it's like being in Manchester and I had to get a taxi, and the guy opened the door of the taxi to push me, put me inside, a black cab, along with hubby and daughter. And it was just like, I just stopped before I went in. I thought I could just get in here, make no eye contact whatsoever, sit down, off we go. But I just said to him, hi, it was a Sunday morning. How's your morning going? How are you? And this whole thing of small talk and pleasantries, it's like there is a place for it, whether as an introvert we like it or find it easy. And suddenly he was just this lovely guy who was going to take us 10 minutes up the road. And it's like, rather than an impersonal journey in a taxi.
Mm.
So there are times when we have to teach ourselves what is a danger and what isn't. Where are we sinking more and more into our negative survival mode, when actually we need to be looking at, as an introvert, how we can live our lives in that more positive way. And it's all about teaching ourselves what works for us and what doesn't, and getting
Yeah.
out of solitude and socializing. And socializing can be quite a challenge and uncomfortable, and yet when we've done it, we can feel quite elated, and it's like, oh yeah, I can be positive, this is okay, I can do this. And yeah, and shrug off that invisibility cloak and not
Mm.
sit and wallow in it.
Yeah. I think what you touched on then is like, in business, there's no build it and they will come. Oh my God, I so wish if there was. Like, I really wish there was. But, we have to get out, whether that's like in person to networking in different events, or whether it's, getting out online or whatever. We have to get out and share our business and market and all of that kind of stuff, which, yeah, as I say, if we didn't have to do, oh my goodness, that would be like the dream. Um, and I mean, there is a level of build it and they will come if you get like your website working for you and all that kind of stuff. Different topic. If you want to know more,
Yeah.
hit me up in the links. Link to my website will be below. Give me a call. Not a call. Oh my God, don't call me. I'm an introvert. I don't want people calling me. Email me.
Yeah.
Um, what was I saying? Lost my train of thought. And it's interesting, like I've been kind of observing myself like this year and kind of how I operate in business and in other parts of my life. And with you mentioning about like the fear of heights, like I've never had a problem with heights. From like year dot, I have been like my parents' garden has got huge trees in it, and I've always been like up at the tip of them, and like fascinated by how far I can see and all of that kind of stuff. Um, and so a few weeks ago, we had my youngest nephew's birthday, and we always have a birthday tea at my mum and dad's house, and we had it out in the garden because it was quite nice weather. And my two brothers, so one's older, one's younger than me, they always have to challenge each other to do stuff. Like, it's this like friendly rivalry type thing. So there used to be this is a long story, but I'll get to a point. There in the garden there is it's a quite a big garden, about a quarter of an acre. We used to call it the big tree den. So it's kind of like a circle of trees. And you could get up when we were younger, you could get up one and you could get round them all without touching the floor. Um, so we were talking about this, and then my brothers were like, "Oh, I wonder if we could do it now." And we were like studying the trees and like, "Oh well, trees have changed a lot in the last 30 plus years. So some have lost branches that we would use and all of this. Anyway, so they were trying it and they couldn't even get up the first tree. So I was like, I'm gonna try it. I reckon I could do it. So I got up the first tree and then got into the next tree. I couldn't go anywhere beyond that because the branches had changed. But it was quite high up, and my partner, who has a problem with heights, was sitting on the floor. He was just like having a panic attack that I was up this tree. I'm like, oh my God. Um, anyway, just ignored him. And so then had to get back into the first tree and come back down again. And I was like, actually, for a lot of people, and actually for myself as well, it's like I haven't done anything like that for years. And it's like that's like I can do scary things. And it's interesting, it's like, but in business, like going live on Instagram or whatever, that is like a really scary thing that I would just like, nope, not happening. Um, and it's interesting how we can have the different levels of fear holding us back in different areas of our lives. And I think business is such a huge one. And I think, again, probably comes back to so much conditioning for women. It's like women aren't meant to be in business. Women are meant to be, like back in Regency times or whenever after dinner when the men would go in the smoking room and they'd have a pipe and brandy and talk about money and business and whatever else. And the women would not be in that room. They would be sewing and doing
Well,
whatever else they would talk
it
about.
was in times gone by. Um, it was considered that a woman's brain couldn't handle it. It wasn't good for them, and it's a load of tosh. It really is a load of tosh.
It
It's what you
is.
learn. I think there are some sort of natural abilities, like you say, your fear of climbing a tree. There isn't one because it's something that you've done naturally. And what would stop you now is more of a physical thing. It's not a fear of climbing a tree. I wouldn't touch a tree with a barge pole. I don't have the physical nature to do it, and I'd be like, what would I do that for? I'll stay on the ground, but don't fall on me either, because I'm not going to help you. And it's just like, that's all right. I'll stand with the phone and call the ambulance if it's needed. That's what I'm good at. But yeah, going back to women's and brains, we are different to men. but it
Mm,
doesn't mean that we can't learn how to have a business and run a business. And it doesn't have to be done like a man does it. I think that's the other thing that's different. There's so many facets to us, and we can very easily shy away from, going back to that word, um, doing something that we know we're capable of doing because it feels so momentous, and our
mm,
brains will tell us we can't do it. The fear will rise because it's a threat to our survival. And I think once we understand that, and I'm not saying everyone go out there impetuously and do whatever you've been wondering about doing for a long time. No, do consider first, and consider whether you are spending a lot of time in your own brain and perhaps not seeking advice about something or getting information about something that could actually move you forward.
mm.
And obviously, don't always listen to your friends and family because they don't always have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
They think they do, but they don't.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like doing business as a woman, you don't have to do it the same as, a man would do business. Doing business as an introvert, you don't have to do it the same way an extrovert would do it. So
Good
all
point.
of this, like, there's people, I'm sure everybody's got those people that they follow on social media and their face is always on their screen. I am not that person in business. I
Yeah.
do not want to be that person in business. And I think it's remembering. I still get caught up in it now. It's like, oh no, this is how we're meant to do in inverted commas business. And I try and be that person. And like I say, that just leads to exhaustion and um, going into my hermit hole. And there are ways to market your business in a gentler way that doesn't have to be constantly, I was going to say, constantly pimping yourself on social media. Let's use that word. Because
Why?
that's what it feels like. I think it's when it's not aligned with how you operate as a person, like how your energy works and all of that kind of stuff. It does feel like pimping yourself or like forcing yourself and um
Yeah, it's
all
like
of that.
selling your soul, isn't it? You feel like
Yeah.
you really, like, yeah, it can just feel so awkward. Yeah. Well, I think it's time to bring this podcast episode to a
I was just
close.
thinking that. I was about to say the question, are we done, Denise? I mean, like I kind of feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours, but
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this episode, are we done?
I think we are done. So I am wondering, for those of you who are listening to this and identify as an introvert or as an extrovert, what are the labels that you've been given that just they're just about being an introvert? And there's like so much negativity attached to them, but actually you know yourself that it's who you are. So we're wondering what are the labels that, as an introvert in particular, you have been gifted by others. Um,
And how you have worn the label of introvert.
well, that's a good one.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I wonder. I wonder what we'll hear. Are we done?
We're done.
Lovely. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back. Hasta la vista.
Bye.